Good morning. Welcome into the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Your SEC Insider Hit this morning is brought to you by Total Transportation of Mississippi. They offer nationwide and regional routes for solo and team drivers. They are hiring right now. Visit TotalMS.com. The application page is right there. Weekly pay, monthly bonuses, frequent home time, TotalMS.com. Full benefits, paid vacation. All powered by Total Transportation of Mississippi. TotalMS.com, offering nationwide and regional routes. We welcome in Steve Palazzolo, NFL insider, former AAA San Francisco Giants player, Skyline Chili ambassador, and friend of the show. He joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Steve P., how do you feel about last night's game? Did it set the NFL back 20 years?
First off, only some of those things are true from your intro. So let's just be clear on that. Yeah, that was an ugly one. I called it like an homage to early Thursday night football games from about a decade ago.
Yeah.
You know, like Jags Titans with Charlie Whitehurst under center or something like that. So it was ugly, bad offense. The one thing I will say, the one defense I'll make, it seems pretty windy there. And I think when we analyze games like that, we do need to adjust.
Fair enough.
For the weather. You know, it is tough to pass in heavy wind, but Bo Nix and Geno Smith had both kind of played like that in spurts this year, so wasn't totally away from their normal baseline.
Okay. All Sean Payton does is win. He's like Jim Harbaugh. I mean, people can like him, dislike him. I know he's not as quite as polarizing as Harbaugh, although Sean is very fiery, as you know, and can get under people's skin, but a win's a win. I mean, these dudes are 8-2. Are you, when you look at the AFC and the fact that the Chiefs have dominated and the Bills have been really good, and at times the Ravens, and they've kind of led the way because the Steelers have faded off. Are you buying in? I mean, are you buying into the point where if I told you they were playing in late January, you'd be like, I can buy into that, Bo, with the Broncos and Sean?
I mean, yeah, because their defense is that good. And as ugly as the offense was last night and at various points throughout the season, they had several games where they just didn't do anything for three quarters and then all of a sudden had a good fourth quarter. That's not really sustainable. But over the last 2 years, we've seen Bo Nix play solid football. It's not like he's been horrendous for a year and a half here. He's been pretty good with a lot of bad in there, but he's been pretty good. They've got guys to throw to. I think they can run the ball a little bit better than they could last year. And then just the defense, man. It is sacking the opposing quarterback 5 and 6 times a game. It's the pass rush. It's the coverage. It really is, the both sides of the defense working together. They've done a great job of that the last couple of years under Vance Joseph. So I think it's a really good team. It's not a completely wide open AFC. I still think at the end of the day, the Chiefs, Bills, and some of those top teams rise back to the top. But yeah, Denver is going to be competitive in the AFC because of that defense.
Okay, so you mentioned the Chiefs and the Bills. Jackson actually was trying to say that Sean McDermott is going to be on the hot seat. And I said, what in the hell are you talking about, considering they live in the playoffs? Do you want to kind of counter that or weigh in on Jackson's hot take?
I mean, not now. He's not. They're coming off their win against the Chiefs, and he's the way they invested in the defense, I think, showed up in that game against Kansas City. They spent the first rounder on a corner who runs 4-3 or sub 4-3, kept up with Xavier Worthy. They brought in Joey Bosa to shore up the defensive line and all these defensive linemen in the draft, and they look deep. If the Bills lose to the Chiefs in the playoffs again, though, like, that's got to be an honest question. It'll be the same question that the Cowboys ask every year when they were winning 12 games and then lost it in the playoffs. It's probably a fair question. Do you run it back with them with the same group? So I wouldn't say right now he's on the hot seat. Let's find out in January if they stumble against the Chiefs again, or just anyone in the playoffs, stumble in the playoffs. Let's maybe ask that question then. I'm not saying it should happen. I'm just saying you got to at least have that conversation in Buffalo if you have this playoff issue and you just can't get over the hump.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right, this is crazy.
Jackson, show me the money. Justified, Jackson.
Okay. All right. Our hit with Steve P is brought to you by Martin's in Livingston. They do Bloody Mary and mimosa game day specials. Unbelievable gumbo and wings. And, of course, Stella Artois, brought to you by Martin's in Livingston. We're talking football. I cannot believe that you just ran with that, Steve P. What? I mean, this guy cannot be even close to all right, here's the deal. If you take the New England, speaking of the Chiefs and the Bills as the teams the last few years, who in your I'll frame it up a different way with Sean Payton and the Broncos and Mike Vrabel and the Patriots. Who is a bigger threat to the Chiefs and the Bills? The Broncos or the Patriots in the AFC?
Oh man, there's a big part of me that wants to say the Patriots. But yeah, I want to see them beat some better teams. And I know Denver hasn't beaten up a lot of good teams this year, but they just have multiple years of that defense playing at a championship caliber level. I guess, oh, man. No, I'll say New England. The quarterback play. Drake May. You got to lean on the quarterback play because May, I mean, I love what he did in Buffalo. And by the way, again, like the Bo Nix discussion, at least on my show and some of the people that I interact with, it's very shouty show, right? He's either the best quarterback in this draft class or he's terrible. There is no in between.
Oh,
Bo Nix is either he's got the most touchdowns in the draft class, he's got the fifth most touchdowns through 25 games as any quarterback in history, and all the or he's terrible, or he's exactly what we saw last night. So there's no middle ground with Bo Nix. But I've seen Nix have good games and make big fourth quarter drives. I've seen him do that. And you have the defense. But I also know that I think Drake May is a better quarterback, has been better, snap for snap, can make big-time throws down the field, can win with his legs. So I think May's better. So I'll lean Patriots. But again, I think Denver has this defense, and it's not like Bo Nix is completely incompetent. Again, there's a middle ground between best in the draft class and he sucks.
No, there's not.
Really
we're fans. Close. There can't be any middle. We're guys and fans. There can't be any middle ground. Palazzolo.
Unfortunately, I just live sitting on the fence and telling everybody it's not as bad as it seems or it's not as great as it seems. That's like my whole shtick.
I love it. Steve Palazzolo, NFL Insider, had the podcast of the year. Still, they have a great show and podcast. Check the mic. You can find it everywhere: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast. He joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Okay, so he's leaning New England. He loves the Broncos too, especially that D. But he's leaning New England because of Drake May. As far as who could come up and leapfrog, so to speak, the Chiefs or Steve, this could line. Those are four damn good teams: Chiefs, Bills, Patriots, Broncos. I mean, we could have a heck of a race to get to the AFC Championship game. It looks like.
Yeah, and throw the Colts in there. I know they're coming off a tough loss against the Steelers.
Fair enough.
But Indy playing in a dome, I've said this a bunch on the show. I think playing indoors, outdoors, that stuff does matter. If Indy's playing at home, where Daniel Jones can throw the ball a little bit better, and they've got some weapons in the offense, and they just added Sauce Gardner to the defense, and I think that adds a huge element to their pass coverage. To much like Denver, try to marry their pass coverage with the pass rush, and so. Yeah, I think Indy's a good team. It's kind of a throwback, right? Broncos, Steelers, Colts. It's like a decade ago with a whole bunch of younger quarterbacks now.
Yeah. If you had to, we're visiting with Steve Palazzolo on the Out of Bounds show, brought to you by Martin's in Livingston. Great place for game day on Saturdays and Sundays. Okay, if you could hire either one today, I love doing this with you. If you could, and I know Sean's got a better resume today, but they're both phenomenal. If you could hire Sean Payton or Mike Vrabel today, who would you hire?
Okay, this one's close. With Payton, he did have Drew Brees for a period of time. I also think you can give some of Drew Brees' success. You give some credit to Payton. Payton had, when Brees went down, he did win a ton with the Saints with Teddy Bridgewater, right? Yeah. He still won. He got the best out of Russell Wilson for a period of time. And if you watch that game last night and think Bo Nix is a backup quarterback, then you must think Sean Payton is a magic man. The fact that the Broncos are sitting there at 8-2 and, were very good last year. So that's, Payton's resume. And then Vrabel, I thought before things fell apart in Tennessee, I thought he was like the next Mike Tomlin. I thought he was just the next consistent coach. If you remember some of those Titans teams with Ryan Tannehill at quarterback, it was A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry, and then just a whole bunch of no names on defense. No offense to Jeffrey Simmons. It was Jeffrey Simmons and like not a lot of players on the defensive side of the ball. And you're like, what? Who are these guys stepping up and looking great? So I thought Vrabel did a great job elevating every roster that he had until they traded A.J. Brown, until they traded got rid of some of their best players. So it's close. I'm going to go Vrabel on that too. I think I'm going to go Vrabel. He's showing what he can do in New England, overhauling that roster as well. He's had some personnel control there. I think that's going to be a big factor for him. I know Sean Payton's always had some of that. I'll take Vrabel. I think the only time he really struggled is when Tennessee really ripped the carpet out from under him and traded his best players. But every other time he's had something to work with, Vrabel's really elevated his team.
Okay, so he's going with Vrabel over Sean, but it's really close. We're visiting with Steve Palazzolo, his show Check the Mic. He joins us on 105.9 The Zone, ESPN.
A guy named Sliced Bread.
And we're talking NFL, and the AFC looks like it could be wild this year, especially with, again, the Broncos and the Patriots, and possibly, like you said, the Colts emerging. But, the Colts, you mentioned them playing indoors, and all those other teams play outdoors, and they're all located in really cold areas of the country. So, to me, that leans to the teams that play outdoors over indoors. How do you see it, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just something that we don't think about enough. Like, again, this morning, if you just go through social media, everybody's like, Bo Nix is terrible. And it's like, if you were standing on the sideline last night, like the ball was rolling on the ground when it was just sitting there. That's how windy it was. And so you have to take that into account, right? Like a rainstorm, a snowstorm. And so I think a lot of what times what happens is you look at the Colts and you look at Daniel Jones' stats through 9 weeks of the season, and it's like, oh, these stats are incredible. Look at Daniel Jones. And then you go back and say they played one game outdoors before Pittsburgh, and it was in Nashville in week 2. And so throwing the ball indoors, it's just easier. Like passer rating since 1970 is 8 points higher than it is in indoor versus outdoor games. It's that significant. And so you just have to take that into account when you're analyzing teams and what you're seeing and what the stats say. You just have to take it into account. So it doesn't mean that they can't win outdoors. It's just that maybe and by the way, the defense takes a hit too. It's harder to play defense indoors. Think about all those Saints teams where it's like, man, Drew Brees is putting up all these stats, but the defense can't stop anybody. It's like, yeah, they're playing 8 games in the Dome and another one in Atlanta. They play like 10 or 11 Dome games every year. It's tough to stop teams indoors. It just is.
Yeah.
So you just have to factor that into the stats that you see and the way teams are constructed. And now when the Colts go on the road, when they try to play a team like Pittsburgh, or when they go to Kansas City in a few weeks, they're going to have to run the ball more effectively and have that. And they do have the ability with their offensive line and with Jonathan Taylor. So it's not like they can't win on the road. It's just sometimes the stats that you see out there, Bo Nix's stats versus Daniel Jones' stats, for instance, they're going to get skewed by circumstances. And you just have to take that into account.
Okay. Who makes Steve Palazzolo, NFL Insider on the Out of Bounds show, brought to you by the Bloody Mary and Mimosa specials at Martin's and Livingston on the weekend for game day. Who does the quarterback make the coach, or does the coach make the quarterback?
I think if you were drafting, right? So I like this exercise. We did this a couple years ago, right? You could have a QB or a coach draft, and you could pick either one. I think in any given time in the NFL, there's probably 4 to 8 quarterbacks you would take first before you take a coach. But then there's some coaches you would take before you take, say, QB 8 or QB 9 or whatever that cutoff is, right?
Okay.
So I don't. And look, the Bill Belichick Tom Brady thing. There's just so much. I don't know if it should carry all the weight, but it carries a lot of weight. Belichick with and without Tom Brady is pretty significant. He was even in New England. Belichick was 5-13 with Drew Bledsoe as quarterback in 2000 before Brady took over. 5-11, then 0-2, then Brady took over and they won a Super Bowl. And it's like, all right, defense or not, it's really tough to separate the fact that how different Belichick's career was with Brady versus without. And he gets credit for finding Tom Brady in the whole thing, but the quarterback might hold more weight. And then I look at Mike Tomlin, and he's just a 9-win coach without Ben Roethlisberger every single year, seemingly. But he does a good job getting to 9 wins. But Ben Roethlisberger makes you an AFC contender,
right?
Which he hasn't been since Ben Roethlisberger's been good. So I say QB first. But then there's certain coaches, the Kyle Shanahans of the world. You could say John Harbaugh, even though he has Lamar right now. Andy Reid, even though he has Mahomes right now. I just look at all the coaches that have done it with multiple quarterbacks and say, okay, they're the guys I could trust the most because they've done it with multiple quarterbacks. If you haven't done it with multiple quarterbacks, it's tough. And a guy like Belichick, it's so lopsided. You say, okay, it's got to be the quarterback first. So I think it's the elite quarterback first, then the elite coaches, and then the high-end quarterbacks, and go from there.
All right, who's the best quarterback coach in the NFL? Is it Andy Reid or Sean or someone else?
I just think Andy Reid's history is pretty spectacular. So again, I mean, it's going to be interesting. I'm not saying like Mahomes is going to stop being, incredible once Andy Reid retires. But I think you look at Mahomes' success. Of course, it has to do with the playmakers that they have there. Andy Reid being there, and Andy Reid's history of Donovan McNabb was unpolished coming out of Syracuse. They were running an option offense. Remember, you would never draft an option quarterback back in the early 2000s or in the 90s. Like Tommy Frazier wasn't getting drafted. That was McNabb, like a very option-centric offense out of Syracuse. And Andy Reid turned him into an old-school West Coast passer, and they go to 4 NFC Championship games. And 1 Super Bowl. So that's pretty incredible. Alex Smith, and then Mahomes. And the history going back to like Brett Favre and everything.
Yeah.
So I'd say Andy Reid, his history. Sean Payton's close, man. I mean, you watch Bo Nix week in, week out, and it's like, man, they're getting really good stats and production out of Bo Nix with his inconsistencies. You got to put Sean Payton up there as well.
Okay. Steve Palazzolo on the Out of Bounds show. What should the Saints tank and go for the number 1 pick?
I mean, you can't really just tank, but in the number 1 pick next year, I know we started talking about the QB class. I'm a little worried that there's not going to be the QB talent at the top of this draft. So I don't know. I mean, that's why I like what the Jets are doing, which is just getting a ton of draft capital over the next 2 years so that they can maneuver. And, Fernando Mendoza is probably going to go in the top 10 Indiana quarterback. He looks good. I think he's got the skills to be a top 10 quarterback. But then I look at Dante Moore from Oregon and Ty Simpson from Alabama. I think they're the next 2 where everybody's putting them in the top 10 in their mock draft, and I think rightfully so. I think both of those guys could easily go back to school. I think it's more likely than not that they go back to school. Good situations at each school. They're very inexperienced, and there's enough money in college that you can say, it's not that you're going to make more money in college. It's you're saying, I'm going to do what's best for me to develop. Then I'll be a top 10 pick next year with more experience, and I'll have a better chance of having success at the NFL level. I think Ty Simpson and Dante Moore should absolutely come back and do that. And then every other name that was mentioned in the preseason, Lenore Sellers, Garrett Nussmeier, Arch Manning, whoever, John Mateer, all of those guys have either struggled, had injuries, not developed, been overhyped, however you want to parse it. So there's not a lot of talent, I don't think, in the top 10 for quarterback. So I don't think I would tank necessarily. But I would have done what the Jets did, which is trade away everything I can to try to think to the future and have as much draft capital, because 2027 could be special.
Okay, I see where you're going. All right,
both for quarterbacks and non-quarterbacks. Jeremiah Smith, those Ryan Williams, Dylan Stewart, Colin Simmons. There's a lot of talent in 2027 coming out, in addition to all these quarterbacks who might get pushed a year down the line here.
All right, last one. I know they both coached in the NFL, so they've done it, but they've also grown up and they're in a totally different space. How do you think Sark or Lane would do in the NFL?
Yeah, that's a good one. I love the old explanation on Lane. If there was a point where if you just flipped his career upside down, it would make more sense.
Yeah.
He went from the Raiders down to USC, down to coordinator, down to Florida Atlantic, whatever. I'm interested in Lane. I think he could do it. I've seen Lane adjust so much to his surroundings, and that's such a huge part of coaching. I would have faith in Lane Kiffin doing it. I don't know enough about Sark either way. I think he's done a really good job overall at Texas, and getting them to a higher level from where they were previously. I'm really interested in Lane Kiffin. I think he's done a little bit more with less, and you've just seen him grow. You got to like see him grow up in real time as a Raiders head coach, as a USC head coach. Took a beat down in both places, and then built himself back up and continued to adjust. And he adjusted to the college football landscape extremely well over these last couple of years. So I think Lane Kiffin is just a really good coach who could do it. Absolutely.
Okay. Did we hit everything? I mean, we got like 2 minutes here. Game of the week. Is it Rams 49ers and Steelers and Chargers and Eagles Packers? What's your game of the week, Steve P?
Probably Eagles Packers. Yeah, Monday Night Football. If anybody can watch it. If YouTube TV subscribers.
YouTube TV, I know.
We got to stand strong. Don't give in. Don't give in,
baby. I'm sure you go ahead. Grab the mic.
ESPN, right? I'm like McAfee over here. I know we're an ESPN affiliate, so I can't say that. Philly, Green Bay, though. Great game, Monday Night Football. You've got the tush-push drama, Green Bay trying to ban it. But you've got I didn't think Green Bay, they couldn't beat the best teams in the NFC last year. They couldn't beat Detroit, Philadelphia, Minnesota last year. This is their opportunity. Green Bay's lost some rough games that they should have won, but this is their opportunity to say, hey, we could, so the NFC is wide open. Number 1 seed is wide open, and I think this game's going to go, obviously, a long way to determine who gets home field advantage.
Steve P., we got 1 minute. Jackson, what do you have?
We have yet to mention one team in this discussion or in this interview today. That's the Baltimore Ravens.
Okay.
Can the Ravens and Lamar actually do this and turn, right the ship all the way?
Wow.
Yes, they can. I mean, their schedule's manageable. It's a lot like Cincinnati last year where they dug such a deep hole and it was like, hey, the Bengals offense is so good. Can they do it? And they came really close. But I think Baltimore, they've made an adjustment on defense, put Kyle Hamilton near the line of scrimmage, made their defense better already. And then, we've seen Baltimore play some really high-end regular seasons, right, where they go on these runs and they're unstoppable on offense. They just, margin for error is just not there, right? So you can't have that fourth quarter implosion. But I think absolutely Baltimore can make a run and, rectify their 1-5 or whatever it was start from the season.
All right, 30 seconds. So I lied. We're 3 more questions. 30 seconds. If you had to pick a game in the line, is there one you like?
Oh, I'm so bad with any single line.
Okay.
My lock of the week was Buffalo over Miami, but Buffalo's got a massive injury report. But I still think they beat up on the Dolphins as long as they don't have a letdown from the Chiefs game. So I like Buffalo by like 9.5, whatever it is.
Okay, yeah, it's 8.5. So he feel like it'll get to 9 or 10 plus. Have a great weekend, my man. We appreciate you.
All righty. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Steve Palazzolo, Skyline Chili ambassador. Also, NFL Insider, had the podcast of the year. He joined us on the Farm Bureau Insurance Guest Line. We are live in the Bank Plus studio, and this is Out of Bounds, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN.